So we are looking at your what would be question 4 on your paper 1 medicine through time GCSE exam paper. Okay, this is a short answer question. Shouldn't take you very long. In fact, we'll probably accredit about 5 minutes to this question. And it's asking you to compare one time period with the other time period. Okay? So the question is, explain one way in which the ideas about the cause of disease and illness were different in the 14th and 17th centuries. And it's worth 4 marks. So the key thing with this is really making sure that you address the 14th century, that you identify the difference here, and that you compare or contrast the 14th and 17th centuries. And it could be, you might get a question on your exam paper that asks you to address the similarities between the 14th and 17th century. Quite often it asks you to identify the difference between 2 different time periods in your study of medicine through time. Okay, and again, as I said at the beginning, it's a very short exam question, should not take you too long. And there's this exam question structure here that will help you. And I've given you a model paragraph here, and it's a very simplified one, but would probably get you the 4 marks. And you get your marks predominantly on your AO2 here. And that's displaying your knowledge of the time period. Okay. So I've answered this question here. So one way in which about the causes of disease and illness were different in the 14th and 17th centuries, and I think the 4 humours stands out. So using the work that you've done today, the 4 humours definitely is something that has changed from the 14th to 17th century. Now, your task was to answer this exam question. I do not mind if you want to use my model exam question, but just make sure that you say that you have watched the video and you have used this model exam question. So one way, so I would answer it like this. One way in which the periods were different was because of the 4 humours. Let me just change my pen quickly. It was because of the 4 humours. During the 14th century, people believed that if the 4 humours were out of balance, they would cause disease. That's true. We know that to be true. People really believed in the 4 humours. This is linked to Hippocrates and later on Galen. And this was the idea that if your body wasn't in balance, it would cause disease. So if you weren't eating the right things, for example. However, comparatively, during the 17th century, I know that people started not to believe in the 4 humours, that the 4 humours caused disease, and disease was seen as something separate from the body which needed to be attacked. And that's because, when we see this later on, lots of pandemics such as the Great Plague and smallpox and syphilis were starting to discredit the 4 humours, and the 4 humours couldn't explain or adequately provide treatments to address these issues. But you don't need to add that. This is a very nice, simplistic 4-mark answer here that should be able to get you those full marks. You don't need to go too much, you don't need to spend too much time on this. Save the showing off bits, if you would like, of your knowledge to the explain why question and the how far would you agree question in the following 2 sections.